Alright, welcome to episode 1 of Rust in the Wild. I'm going to try and capture myself struggling to use Rust because I keep talking about how I struggle to use it, and then when people ask for examples, I can't think of any specific examples. So, I have my one and only Rust project here, Lazy CLI, which effectively just takes the output of some command and it splits it into columns and lets you go and you know, actually select things in the output and then perform operations on them. So it's what's kind of being shown in this little demo here. If you have, so in this example, you've got like two columns here. So this is like there's a space between all these things. So it'll split it into two columns, and you might be able to run a command that acts on the second column, for example. And yeah, Docker PS is another example. These are all separate columns. So you might only care about the container ID, and if you press something, it'll like delete that container ID, for example. So I'm just going to go to an issue that recently got raised here, saying that we have an out of range exception that I believe happens when you've got one of the rows with like too few columns. It's kind of like truncated early. And there was a stack trace in here somewhere. It's my stack trace. Here it is. And it was complaining about this line. So it's mod.rs38. And that is in here doing this thing. So we're inside this parse function, and it just takes the entire output of this command, like maybe like a Docker PS, and then it goes and says, okay, get me the what are the boundaries of the columns, and then I'm going to get each line and convert it to this row object that just contains like the original line, and then it's got like a vector of strings, which is like the cell. So it's like each column is a cell, basically in a row. And that can let you go and say, I want to delete this Docker container, and then that'll correspond to like the first cell in this vector. So we get the column indices to work out how to slice up each row, and then for each line we will just map it to basically, we'll start with an empty vector. I think we must push to the vector. Yeah, so it's a cells vector that we're pushing to, and we need to get the characters in the actual line, and then we want to just like slice them up and put them in the corresponding cells. So this is causing, it is like an out of bounds exception where we kind of record what the last, I think, character is that we kind of put into a cell. So if it comes to the point where we're iterating through these column indices and it's telling you that the next column is like, 40 characters down, but your actual string only ends up being 20 characters long, then this ends up being an out of bounds exception. I think that's what they call it in Rust. Range and out of range for slice, yeah. So this is the line that has the issue, and I've written a test to verify that's a problem. So I'll just start with, this is my output of some fictitious program that we've run, and this final line doesn't actually have column 1 or column 2, 2 or 3 rather. It just ends abruptly here. And so what we expect to happen is that this splits up this output into 3 rows, where the first 2 rows have column 1, column 2, column 3 as the 3 cells, and the bottom one just kind of pads out the remaining cells with empty strings. And if I go to, how do I do this, cargo test, I've got that to fail, so it's saying it's failed here, and it says on the exact same line that we saw the actual error from the issue, it's got an out of range issue. So I need to find a way to safely, what I want to do is say, like, I've got this array and I might want to have like this section of it, but because this thing doesn't exist, it'll just move that down. So it's just saying if part of this range is out of bounds, just kind of truncate it down to what we can get away with, and if that means it's, this is the array and here's what I want, it'll just return an empty string, or an empty vector of chars, whatever it is. So somebody So my friend Ed has provided me with a one-liner that might help, which is this. And so I think the idea is that you would go... Right, so if I want 4 to 12, it would be skip 8 and take 4. So in this case, I want it from my last... I want to skip all the last characters. And then what I want to take is my position minus last, I think. Yeah, if I want position 20 and my last one was 15, then I want to take 5. I think that's correct. And so instead of v.iter, it's going to be, well, I guess we want this to be in here. And it's going to be chars. That's my vector I'm starting with. And here, so it's being collected into a vector and then a slice. But I might not need it to be a slice. I might not even need it to be a vector. So if I just do this, what do I get? What is the type of this thing? That's a, if I go let, I guess, cell cars. Because that, okay, so that is a, it implements an iterator of item, which is a pointer to a car. Unused variable. Okay, and what if I just do this? Okay, mismatched types. What's the issue? Okay, so you expected a vec of cars and you found a struct of iterable take skip slice iter apostrophe underscore car. What if I get rid of this thing? Okay, still mismatched types, so that did absolutely nothing. And this function is just taking my what's it doing here? It's taking my vector of strings, which is my cells, just an array of strings, a vector of strings, and it takes the characters that it needs to add to this vector. So it ends up just going push. Okay. And so what we want to give this is a vector of cars. And how do I do that? Well, let's bring back the collect. So dot collect. Does that work? Field expressions cannot have generic arguments. Oh, I need to have this thing. Okay, cool. No method named collect for that struct in the current scope. I think perhaps it needs to become an iterable again. No method named iter found for struct. Okay. No method named collect for struct. So it's an iter take skip in the current scope. What does that mean? No method named oh, because it's got 3 L's. Okay, we're back to having a more sensible error. So creates own data from borrowed type, usually by cloning. Right. And it's not happy. Well, that's what this actual method does. But if I get rid of that, it's back to. Oh, this is a bit closer. So now it's saying it expected a struct of a vector of characters, but then it found one that has pointers to characters. Okay, now how can I turn that into the thing that I need it to be? I need it, so if the reference thing, if the ampersand isn't there, then it means it's owned. So it's as if I have to like map it to owned. I like to go dot to owned here. No, what's it do? What's it actually do if I do that? That appears to have done nothing. Can I specify here that I specifically want to have each thing on the inside being a pointer to a character? Oh, semicolon. It expected that, but it found that. Okay, this is too hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that as it was. And then down here, I'm going to see if I can get away with saying that I only need a immutable reference to a character inside this vector. Okay, so now this is no longer erroring, but this one is because I'm doing .20. So if I just get rid of that, okay, that still does not work. Why not? Because it expected a struct. There was a vector of pointed to characters, but it found a slice of this. So it must be that doing .toOwned on that returns a vector of owned characters. Okay, so this guy's returning a vector of owned characters and this guy's not. It'd be great if I could just say I don't care what it is, I just want a vector of characters so I can go and push it to my cells. What if I go as ref? Okay, that's not what I wanted. There's something there that involves a ref though, doesn't it? No, maybe not. Okay. Let's collect this one then. Vec. No method name collect for slice. Okay, what if I go .iterable? Okay, so now that works. So what did we actually just do? We started with a vector. Did we? I think this is a slice. Convert it to an iterable and then collect it into a vector. Then this ends up being a vector. What is this thing before I turn it into a vector? I wonder if I can get away with just like not doing that. And then not doing this at all. And then making this actually be like a... Is that what the thing was? A slice of characters? Can't be done in compile time. What if it's immutable? Nope. Maybe this thing. And now that has mismatched types. Right, okay, well that's too confusing, so I'm just going to go back here and leave it as it is. Except I need this to be .iterable. Then if I scroll down to here and I run my test, what's going to happen? It panics because the range start index 10 out of range for slice of length 4 at line 47. Is that the same place as before? Right, so now this is... So what am I doing here? I'm saying I need to go through each of these column indices and I'm going to push whatever remains into the final one. But it's possible that that itself, so last could be beyond the range. Yeah, okay, so maybe I should make use of this, where is it? This code here. So I could say like, what is this thing? I need to safely access this in the same way as I'm doing it here. But instead of, I don't really have this final position, so what I would need to do is just say like whatever the length of my character array is, so cars dot size, length, len, and I assume that's still going to fail if I run this guy again. Because it's the last part that's taking too long. Where am I? Another thing I could do is just find out whether last is greater than my actual, like, whether last is greater than the length of my array, and if it is, I'll just make it smaller. So I'll just get rid of this and say if last is greater than cars.length minus 1, last equals. So here I'm saying that if it's outside the bounds, I'll just put it within the bounds. Why is there a 1 there? I don't know why that would happen. So this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Somehow this has 4 things being returned. So that's kind of confusing. Yes. Maybe I'm doing it, maybe there's an off by 1 error here where I'm saying, no, it doesn't sound right. I'll try and change that to a 2 and see what happens. I don't think it'll make a difference. L1. Right, let's just get rid of this entirely and see what happens. And now it passes. Why would that pass? Last is the length of the array. And shouldn't that mean that this is... I should do -1 here to start from the end? Let's just confirm that this line is actually doing something. Yes, it is. Okay, I've got no idea what's going on there. But I do feel a bit uncomfortable with the fact that, like, this really is doing essentially the same thing as this. We're just saying we have a certain range, and we want to get everything within that range. So I'm just going to see if it complains if I go cars.length here. Okay, it still passes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can factor this out into its own function called like safe vec range. I can't think of a good name for this thing, but I'm just going to do that for now. And it's going to return, I suppose, a vector of characters, because that's what I think is needed here. So yes, so it's gonna take my characters, vector of characters, a from, which will be a U size, and a to, which will be a U size. And I'm gonna have to, well, I guess I'll just copy and paste this for now. Okay, so these are both from, that will be to, and what's the mismatch type all about? Okay, well, maybe I'll return a reference to a character, but now I'm missing a lifetime specifier. Consider using this static lifetime. How to specify lifetimes? No. How does this all work? Create a reference with a lifetime specifier. Can it return value referencing function parameter characters? Oh, is it because that's owned, perhaps? Can I take a reference? Explicit lifetime required in the type of characters. Can I make this generic and copy what this guy was doing and go A? And then that, how does that work? Ampersand. And then this can be A as well. Okay, I no longer have any errors. Function is never used. So I'll come back over here And I'll go let sol characters equals this thing, passing my characters. My from is last, my to is position minus last. And then I can just delete this. Okay, this is complaining because it expected a reference. Okay, can I put an ampersand in here? Ah, okay. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing down here. I'm going to pass in in this case it'll be last to cast up length, and then don't need this. Okay, that's not complaining. So I have no idea what I actually just did here. I think I'm saying I've got a lifetime. This vector is going to live as long as this vector. So it's okay if I'm collecting things from it and returning it, I think. Am I allowed to get this guy and put it here? No, because then I'm returning owned characters, I think. Okay, does it still pass? No, all of a sudden I've got 4 things being returned here. What have I done differently? Cell characters, last position, to minus from. Is it because this isn't doing the same thing as before? I'm saying from last to the end of your string. Oh no, it's because I got this code still here. Let's get rid of that. And we'll try that again. Now multiple things are failing. Panicked at attempt to subtract with overflow, 52. Which is this one. Oh, okay. Right. So because both of these are U sizes, and it's possible for one of these to be larger than, it's possible for from to be larger than 2, this will become a negative number, and these aren't happy with negative numbers. You can't even take a negative number. Well, shit. Right. So I could do this. I guess if from is greater than 2, return an empty vector. See if that works. No, that breaks it even more. Well, shit. If this guy doesn't do what I want it to do, then it feels wrong having this function here to handle both of these things. I still like it here, but it might be that over here it just makes more sense to explicitly like just have this thing, and then I'd continue doing what I was doing before by going characters dot last dot collect vec. Iterable. Does that pass? What? Did I break something here? From, to minus from. I'm gonna do like +1. Nope. How about -1? Nope. What have I changed? I'm skipping from, which is last. Position minus last. that is. Let me just copy this, paste it over here, and just undo. Skip last. Does that pass? How is it possible that it's different if I have it here, if I have it in a function? So let's go back to using this. So we're saying cell characters, use characters, iterable, skip last, take from, oh, because I'm passing that in. Okay, that's why. So let me go back to using this. Okay, so this is now characters, last, and then position. Semicolon. Save vector. Mismatch types. Oh, needs to be a reference. Okay. Try again. That's not so bad, but it does seem like this thing still doesn't work. So I'm just going to keep that probably as it is. This whole thing feels kind of wrong though. Like, it feels like there should be a better way to just kind of iterate through here without having this weird final step to go and get the last thing. I guess it's just saying that if you've got extra stuff at the end, put that in the final column. But I am happy with that. So yes, I guess that was a bit of a taste of my probably a typical experience of me trying to use Rust. A lot of just not knowing what the hell I'm doing, and just adding functions and playing with ampersands until it stops complaining. It is, yeah, suffice it to say that I have a very superficial understanding of what the hell is going on, and that probably won't change until I actually think a bit harder about what I'm actually doing while I do it. But that means I have to not be lazy, so I haven't worked out a way around that one yet. But yeah, I'll see if I can find another similar issue on the repo that I can do another video on, and maybe I'll be able to like track my progress over time. Anyway.